Community Dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Lagos. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Guinea's transitional government suspends 54 unauthorized political parties, asked them to cease their activities. President Barrow of the Gambia describes Ghana's democracy as resolute, urging others to emulate it.
They have consolidated democracy. It's about 32 years of continuous democracy. Transfer of power have happened there so many times, peacefully, and different political parties. And we are very, very proud of Ghana's democracy.
Chad's President Idris Deby admits Wednesday's night's attack on the presidency was an assassination attempt on his life. And Ghana's new president, Mahama, reassures stable electricity nationwide despite looming energy crisis known as doomsday.
And so I can assure you, with some of the ideas they've come up with, we will make sure that your lights stay on and that we do not have doomsday, as you popularly call it.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. Let's begin in Guinea, where the transitional government has suspended unauthorized politicians and asked them to cease their activities. In a statement read on national television, Ibrahima Kalikonde said that he regretted the proliferation of political parties without prior authorization. Accordingly, these political parties are requested to submit an application for administrative authorization in order to continue their activities. According to the Minister of Territorial Administration and Decentralization, it is a state of affairs contrary to the provisions of the organic law on the Charter of Political Parties. In his press release published on Thursday evening, the minister ordered the 54 political parties concerned to cease their activities with immediate effect. He also asked them to submit an application for administrative authorization to his ministry for their legal existence. General El Haj Ibrahima Konde then called on national and international institutions, technical and financial partners to cease all collaboration with these 54 suspended political parties. As for the political parties in internal dispute, the statement underlines their request to first comply with the court decisions. The Gambia's President, Adama Barrow, says he is proud of Ghana's democracy, urging others to emulate the Black Star Nation. This follows the investiture of Ghana's new president, John Mahama, in Accra last Tuesday, of which he was in attendance. Speaking at the event, President Barrow said the country is a beacon of democracy in Africa, having had a stable democracy and institutions for more than 3 decades. Take a listen.
Ghana is a very important country in Africa and is a founding member of ECOWAS. And the policy of ECOWAS is all about democracy. And we have seen that Ghana, their democracy is progressing. They have consolidated democracy. It's about 32 years of continuous democracy. Transfer of power have happened there so many times, peacefully, and different political parties. So their democracy is very interesting and is growing and it needs to be supported. That's why we are there to give our support, definitely. And we are very, very proud of Ghana's democracy. And we advise the African continent, it is the way forward. It is the only democracy that will make so we maintain peace, we maintain stability, and definitely we develop our countries. That's the only way forward. Government is about continuity. It's not about personalities. Ado was there. We had a very, very good working relationship with Nana. And obviously, John, when I came, he just left and this is the time I came. So obviously, we had that relationship. And it's not about individual, it's about the country. And Ghana, I think they have very strong institutions. So we will continue to engage. Even promise to visit Gambia very soon in the future.
That was President Adama Barrow of the Gambia speaking about Ghana's democracy. Well, talking about Ghana, the new president, John Mahama, has assured Ghanaians that effort will be made to resolve the looming power crisis and ensure a steady electricity supply. The president gave this assurance to the country while speaking at the 92nd Jalsa Convention of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission at Winneba on Thursday, which also marked his first public event since he took office on January 7, 2025. Echatisu completes the story.
The assurance of the president comes after his nominee for the Ministry of Energy, John Abdullahi Jinapor, disclosed that the country was on the verge of power crisis because the outgone Akufo-Addo government left the country with only 5 hours of power. The minister-designate had also indicated that the country was facing insufficient fuel for power supply, which could lead to potential erratic power outages, locally known as Dumso. But speaking on Thursday, President John Mahama explained that one of the first things he did when he took office was to convene a meeting with stakeholders in the energy sector to ensure that they come up with pragmatic steps to keep the lights on.
And so yesterday I called a meeting of all the stakeholders in the electricity value chain. And they have been sitting since yesterday to today to come out with innovative solutions so that we're able to keep the lights on. And so I can assure you with some of the ideas they've come up with, we will make sure that your lights stay on and that we do not have doomso, as you popularly call it.
President Mahama further indicated that his predecessors failed to make provisions for such eventualities, which led to the current alarm over potential power outages.
Unfortunately, enough provision was not made for this eventuality. When the fuel arrives, it takes time to import it, 3 weeks to place an order and get it delivered. And when it arrives, you have to treat the fuel for another week and a half to make it ready for use in the generating plants. And so there's a threat of power outages. But my brothers and sisters, don't despair. Like I said, you elected us to solve the problems.
It must be noted that this threat of power outages.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Well, let's cross over now to Benin, as there's still not been an official report about the deadly attack in the north of the country on Wednesday evening, where armed individuals stormed the strategic area of Triple Point, killing dozens of people who have all been confirmed as soldiers. In a note published on Thursday evening, the Chief of Staff of Benin confirmed the attack, citing heavy losses without giving further details. This umpteenth attack in the Beninese Sahel comes at a time when various means have been mobilized to combat terrorism. But what lapses allow the attackers to achieve their targets? Listen to Lukman Urucho, a Beninese investigative journalist and specialist in security issues, speaking on the matter.
Nous avons des difficultés à avoir des chiffres exacts pendant qu'on parle de 35 tués sur les réseaux sociaux. Les sources officielles manquent de nous apporter.
We are struggling to get reliable figures, and while we cannot perform real-time updates on social media, the official sources have yet to provide us with precise details. However, based on my own cross-referencing, we have noted that a total of 28 Beninese soldiers were killed during this attack. This is a significant loss for the Beninese military since the onset of terrorism in the country. When we consider that substantial investments have been made in northern Benin to combat terrorism, including the purchase of military equipment and an increased defense budget for 2025, it highlights the gravity of the situation. Despite this political will, such a large-scale attack has still occurred. This issue is not only geographical, but also infrastructural and social. There are areas where basic necessities like access to water, energy, education, and healthcare are lacking, which creates a real problem. As you know, the enemy often collaborates with local populations, possibly promising them rewards through political deals, although this may not be the case. As we work to regain control of the situation, the response must not only be military, but also social, in order to reassure the population.
Ce qui n'est peut-être pas le cas quand tu réussirons à prendre le contrôle de la situation. Bref, la réponse ne doit pas être que militaire, elle doit être également sociale pour rassurer la population.
You had the voice of Lukman Urucho, a Beninese investigative journalist and specialist in security issues. Now let's bring an update on the latest attack on the Chadian presidency. Now following that attack that occurred on Wednesday night against the presidency, Muhammad Idris Deby Itno, the president, says that it was an assassination attempt on his life. While extending his condolences to the families of the victims, he celebrated the bravery of the defense forces who reacted professionally to this attempt at destabilization in the country. In a strong message, he also paid tribute to the unanimous support of the Chadian people and friendly countries, insisting on the importance of letting justice do its work to establish responsibilities. He stated, and I quote, "I would also like to pay a vibrant tribute to the responsiveness, bravery and professionalism shown by these valiant soldiers in the defense of the first institution of the Republic. The attackers of this vain attempt aimed to vitrify me, but they were vitrified by the bravery, vigilance and courage of the Presidential Guard." End of quote. In a broadcast by China National Television, it showed images of a group of men attacking several guards at one of the entrances to the presidency with knives on Wednesday night. 2 soldiers eventually lost their lives in the attacks, the public prosecutor has said. Well, let's head now to Nigeria, where President Bola Tinubu has called on China to expand its economic cooperation with Nigeria and Africa, urging an increase in the $2 billion currency swap agreement and a review of the $50 billion aid package for the continent. Speaking on Thursday during a meeting with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi at the State House in Abuja, the capital, Tinubu said the currency swap renewed at 15 billion won, about $2 billion, should be increased to accelerate infrastructure development in Nigeria and deepen bilateral ties. Usman Umaro reports.
The Chinese envoy is in Nigeria for an official visit and was received by Yusuf Tugga, Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs. The meeting offered Nigeria the opportunity to relay its concerns in different areas. President Bola Tinubu, through his Minister of Foreign Affairs, also appealed to China to reassess its $50 billion aid pledge to Africa, announced last year by Chinese President Xi Jinping, arguing that the continent's infrastructural needs require greater support.
The partnership reflects the shared vision of our two nations to foster economic growth, sustainable development, and mutual prosperity.
The Nigerian leader further requested China's backing for Nigeria's bid for a permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council, citing the country's leadership role in Africa. During the meeting, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi commended Tinubu's administration for its renewed hope agenda and reaffirmed China's commitment to supporting Nigeria in countering terrorism, enhancing regional security, and funding developmental projects through the Chinese National Development Bank.
China and Nigeria have always, in the spirit of mutual respect and equality, deepened our friendship and pursued practical cooperation, setting a fine example of South-South cooperation and an important exemplar of China-Africa cooperation. Indeed, as you mentioned, the renewal of the currency swap agreement shows how well we have carried out our financial cooperation and sustained its momentum. With regard to Nigeria's wish to increase the line of the currency swap, we will favorably study and consider the issue.
Both leaders highlighted the importance of implementing existing agreements signed during Tinubu's visit to China last year. President Tinubu noted that Joseph Tagbe, Nigeria's Director General of Nigeria-China Strategic Partnership, would oversee the execution of these agreements. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Still in Nigeria, the country is considering changing the method of calculating its gross domestic product, GDP. From this year, new areas of activities, including informal, hidden or illegal, will be taken into account to calculate the country's GDP. This is an announcement made by the NBS, the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. Christopher Teacher completes the story.
The new method of calculation expected later this year is aimed at reflecting changing economic realities. Moses Waniko, a senior official at NBS Nigeria's Bureau of Statistics, said at a presentation in Lagos. He added that this method of calculation will help grow the Nigerian economy. It will rely on new sectors such as digital economy, health, social funds, pensions, refineries, mines, private employees, among others. Moses Waniko also specifies that the new method of calculation will cover illegal and hidden activities. He explained that, and I quote, some economic activities have no legal basis, such as prostitution. Yet, these actors earn an income and sometimes live better than those in the formal sector. Ultimately, this income impacts the formal economy. End of quote. The change in the calculation of GDP will also change certain closely watched ratios, such as income per capita, tax revenues in relation to GDP or debt. Nigeria, which has the largest population in Africa with 227 million inhabitants and 410 million expected by 2050, according to the UN, is currently going through one of the worst economic crises in decades. Nigeria, which was Africa's largest economy until 2022, is now in the fourth place behind South Africa, Egypt and Algeria, according to the International Monetary Fund.
Christopher Tisho filed a report. In Togo, the government aims to make the fight against flooding a top priority. Nearly 1.5 billion CFA funds will be allocated in 2025 to address flooding in the capital and other high-risk areas. This announcement was made by the Minister of Water and Sanitation. Several infrastructures will be constructed or rehabilitated this year to mitigate the effects of climate change. More in this report by Demba Ma'an and voiced by Abdullahi Hassan.
A total of 1.4 billion CFA francs will be mobilized to combat flooding in Togo. The announcement was made by the Ministry of Water and Sanitation, which states that the funding is specifically targeted at the Togolese capital Lomé and other vulnerable areas. It adds that the resources will be devoted to improving sanitation and drainage infrastructures in urban centers most at risk from rainfall-related hazards. Among the main projects announced is the development of the Tokoin-Dogovu Rail Triangle Depression in Lomé, launched several years ago. The project aims to reorganize rainwater drainage in this area of the Togolese capital. The Togolese government has no intention of stopping there. It is also planning to set up and reinforce pumping systems in various communes of Greater Lomé, namely Awatame, Gbomame, and Atilamono. According to the Togolese Ministry of Water and Sanitation, this installation should facilitate the rapid evacuation of rainwater, thereby reducing the extent and frequency of flooding. These projects are part of a strategy aimed at strengthening the resilience of infrastructure to climate change in a context where Togo is regularly confronted with flooding. In May last year, the Togolese capital, Lomé, and other towns in the country were heavily flooded due to heavy rains.
Abdullah Hassan voiced a report filed by Demba Ma'an. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar, and on our partner stations across the sub-region. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Guinea Transitional Government suspends 54 unauthorized political parties, asks them to cease their activities. President Barrow of the Gambia describes Ghana's democracy as resolute, urging others to emulate it. Chad's President Idris Deby admits Wednesday night's attack on the presidency was an assassination attempt on his life. Ghana's new president reassures stable electricity nationwide despite looming energy crisis known as Doomsor. And still ahead in the news, authorities in Senegal arrest 4 suspects with illicit pharmaceutical product in the suburbs of Dakar. We do have a guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Well, don't forget, you can listen to us live on wadr.org, watch us on Facebook and YouTube. Back here in Senegal, 4 suspects were arrested in the suburbs of Dakar for possessing illicit pharmaceutical product following a major operation conducted by the Gendarmerie. The Territorial Gendarmerie Brigade of Kermassa, in collaboration with the Senegalese Pharmaceutical Regulatory Agency ARP, carried out the operations between Tuesday and Wednesday. This effort resulted in the seizure of a significant quantity of illegally marketed pharmaceutical product. Augustine Colley completes the story.
According to a press release from the Gendarmerie, an investigation was launched after receiving information about the alleged involvement of a company named Plaza Cosmetics located in Kermassa in the unauthorized sale of food supplements and health products. Investigations revealed that this company also operated in several neighborhoods of Dakar, including Ngor, HLM, and Passe Asening. On January 8, a seizure operation was initiated under the direction of the public prosecutor, involving agents from Kermassar Research Brigade and the Senegalese Pharmaceutical Regulatory Agency. The press release states that during the raids conducted at various sale points, authorities seized a significant quantity of unapproved pharmaceutical products. 4 individuals were arrested and placed in custody for criminal association, endangerment of public health, possession and marketing of health products without authorization, and illegal advertising of health products.
Augustine Bilkoli filed that report. And to Liberia now, President Joseph Boakai has reaffirmed his administration's commitment to advancing education in the country, expressing confidence in the newly appointed president of the University of Liberia, Dr. Laili Maparian. Grace Joshua in Monrovia completes the story.
President Boakai shared his optimism during an officials meeting with Dr. Maparian, the new president of the University of Liberia, at the executive mansion on Thursday. Speaking during the meeting, President Boakai warmly welcomed Dr. Maparian, stating that her appointment marked a new chapter for the University of Liberia. He expressed hope that her leadership will prosper the university towards transformative growth, ensuring its alignment with national priorities, particularly in education and workforce development, as outlined in the government-era's agenda. At the same time, student-based political party, the Student Unification Party, also welcomed the new leadership of the university and highlighted the importance of collective efforts for a transformative growth and leadership that seek the interest and betterment of students at the state-run university.
Has come to reassure her commitment to fighting for social justice, economic freedom, and peace. Over the years, the Vanguard Party has played a major role in ensuring simplifying the complexity of intrinsic motivated societal contradiction to the people and to the students of the University of Liberia. They have given the party the mandate to champion the cause of the students. The people elected Joseph Boakai to provide for them quality education. The campuses of the University of Liberia cannot expand qualitative facility after 11 months.
In response, Dr. Maparian pledged to dedicate herself fully to the university progress while reflecting on her first visit to Liberia in 2009 and described her new role as a fulfillment of her dream to serve the nation, as well as underscoring her personal and professional commitment to Liberia achievements. For West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Grace Joshua in Monrovia.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, this segment of Newslink takes us to Benin, where there is still no official report after the deadly attack in the north of the country. On Wednesday evening, armed individuals stormed the strategic area of the Triple Point, killing dozens of people, all soldiers. In a note published Thursday evening, the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces confirmed the attack, mentioning heavy losses without giving further details. Lukman Oroche, a Beninese investigative journalist specializing in security issues, spoke with my colleague Demba Ma'an on the subject.
At the time of speaking, we are having difficulty obtaining exact figures. While we are talking about 35 killed on social networks, official sources fail to provide us with these details. But from our own cross-checking, we are able to note that there are a total of 28 Beninese soldiers who were killed during this attack. We can talk about the purchase of military equipment, the increase of the budget allocated to defense for the year 2025.
Despite this political will, what flaw has allowed this large-scale attack today?
Yes, before noting the result of everything you have mentioned as already taken actions, we will have to wait. We must hope, without doubt, the impact perhaps in a month, 2 or perhaps a year. But immediately, it is a military response that the state seems to provide. However, the response is not only military, it must also be social, and it's not only geographical distance. It is also an infrastructural distance. You have localities that lack the necessary access to water, access to energy, access to school, access to health centers, and this pose a real problem. You know, the enemy generally collaborates with the population because, obviously, you may be seeing them back to back with perhaps politics, which may not be the case. When we succeed in taking control of this situation, in short, the response must not only be military, it must also be social to reassure the population.
Earlier you spoke about this problem, access to basic social services by local populations. Today, do you want to insinuate that the enemy is replacing the Benin state in this area?
Yes, it may be too much, but I think it's not ruled out because, you see, at certain times the populations who seem to collaborate with these forces of evil, you question the inhabitants of certain environment. You are told that the state that you seem to defend, where is it? We have been here for a while. We have not noticed the road. We do not have electricity. We do not have water. We do not have school. And so, this really poses the problem. And the Good Samaritan who is presented as all these extremist groups, because do not forget, they amass the population through messages that are capable of meeting the challenges that the state has not succeeded in, and therefore poses themselves as a Good Samaritan. And you understand that it is quite easy for the population to fall into the ASKC.
So what could be the response of the Beninese army when we know that its room for maneuver is reduced in view of its current relations, which are not at their best with its two neighbors, Niger and Burkina Faso?
This is a big concern. You know, it's difficult in the case to lead a fight, an effective fight, because you have Benin, which does not seem to get along well with its neighbors Niger, its neighbor Burkina Faso. They share the great forest of Daweve Park. Normally, a synergy of action, a collaboration could contribute to slowing the momentum of these extremist groups, but unfortunately, each state seems to function without real collaboration from its neighbor. We wonder, in such context, what will Benin be able to do?
Dans un tel contexte, que pourra faire le Bénin?
Lukman Uru Cheo is a Beninese investigative journalist specializing in security issues. And here is Sport News with Zankle Janko.
Hello there, warm welcome and thank you for joining us. Ivory Coast international Amad Diallo has signed a new 5-year contract at Manchester United that will tie him to Old Trafford until June 2030. The 22-year-old Ivory Coast winger, who has emerged as a key player under Robin Amorim, would have been a free agent in the summer. Diallo has made 50 appearances and scored 9 goals since joining United from Atlanta in 2021 for £19 million plus 18.2 million in add-ons, according to the Daily Mail. After joining United as an 18-year-old, the winger had an initial slow start to life at the club, featuring just 9 times across his first 3 seasons. However, Diallo has now proven to be an early favourite of new coach Amorim since he took charge, playing every game of the Portuguese tenor so far. And the penultimate round of the CAF Champions League group stage kicks off on Friday, with teams across the groups battling to secure quarterfinal spots. Al Hilal of Sudan is the only team assured of progression, leaving the other clubs fighting for the remaining slots, according to CAF official website. The Egyptian title holders Al Ahly, now third in the group, must defeat bottom place Stade Abidjan of Ivory Coast on Saturday to avoid a shock early exit. Meanwhile, Esperance will visit Malian outfit Joliba on Sunday, seeking to rebound from their loss to Pyramids and secure their qualification. This week's fixture in CAF Champions League is as follows. In Group A, MC Alger will take on TP Mazembe. Al Hilal Omdurman will take on Young Africans. In Group B, Maniama Union will take on Mamelodi Sundowns of South Africa. FAR Rabat will welcome Raja Casablanca. In Group C, Ivorian side Stade Abidjan will welcome Al Ahly of Egypt. Orlando Pirates will entertain Belouizdad. And in Group D, Sagrada Esperanza will entertain, while Malian side Joliba welcomes Esperance. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And that's it on this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek, Umudayogo, and Sheikh Jai for the technical support. I am Imo Edit. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM.